Hey, what's poppin' guys? Sizzle here, and today I'm going to be giving you the beginner's guide to Kdenlive, pretty much everything you'll need to know from someone who's been using it for the last 2 years or so. It's free open source, you can download in the description. Once you do, you can just open it up, and you should see a window, something like this. Before you do anything, you want to change some settings that will be just useful going forward. So you want to hit Settings, Configure Kdenlive, go to Project Defaults, pick in the Full HD section, 1080p, 60 FPS. That should be the default. I don't know why it's not, but you should make it your default. Pretty straightforward. Then also in Timeline, you want to just enable scroll vertically with scroll wheel, horizontally with shift and scroll wheel, so that way you can just scroll up and down on the timeline. I don't even know if there's a way to do it without having this enabled, so it's nice to have on. And then the last thing is you want to hit render, go to MP4, and hit the little star button right here and favorite it, and that way it'll auto-select MP4 whenever you go to render stuff, except maybe for the first time, but when you reopen the program, going forward, it will have MP4 auto-selected, so you don't have to, worry about it rendering to WebM, because for some reason it really likes to do that. And yeah, so to add stuff, it's pretty simple, it's drag and drop. When you do drag and drop, you'll notice sometimes it'll say switch clip profile. You almost never want to do that. That'll change the resolution a lot of the time, make it look really blurry or kind of messed up. Like 90% of the time, don't do that unless you know what you're doing and you want it to change. Most of the time, the default's fine, so you just hit cancel and you'll just add it in its default form. And you can see we added 3 different types of files. I'm going to go full screen now to show off some more stuff. So we have some pretty obvious, just beginner stuff, right? So we have our footage here. The main thing most people want to do is cut footage. So you just want to go wherever you want to cut in the timeline. Have whatever you want to cut selected. Make sure it's nice and highlighted like this. Then hit Shift and R, and just like that, it'll split in two for you. If you don't want to do it with a shortcut, you can right-click and just hit Cut Clip, and just like that, it'll work the same. You can drag it around, do whatever you want with it. The other thing would be transitions. So to do that, you need 2 separate clips at least. So I'll just have this clip split in 2. You need to have them overlap a bit, right? So something like this. In this case, I'm actually not gonna use this footage because it looks too similar, because it's literally the same footage and the background's like the same the whole way through. So I'm just gonna use this PNG of something my friend made a while back for me. And yeah, you want to make sure it's overlapped. It can be a PNG, it can be MP4, whatever you want. You want to overlap like this, where it's like part way over. Then hit compositions, and that's kind of where you'll find most of your transitions. The 2 that I recommend are the ones they have like bolded, which are dissolve and wipe. For this example, I'm going to use wipe to kind of show it off better. When you drag it in, it should automatically look something like this when you click on it, right? When you don't click on it, it won't be like that. When you click on it, it should be stretched across both clips and just around the right size. Sometimes it'll be stretched out a bit extra like this or something, and if it is like that, you do want to fix that because that'll cause some weird visual problems later. So you just want to hold the left click button and drag it in just like you would anything else, and make sure it's nice and snug. Then when you have it selected, you'll see you have some options now. The only one you really want to mess with is the wipe method, so I'm just going to do the little clock one, kind of show off transition. You can see just like that, it transitions in. And normally it'll also get rid of the background footage as it transitions in, but since the thing we're transitioning into is a PNG, it technically has no background, so it's not going to kind of like run over. But if this was another clip, it would be kind of pasted over it, and you would stop seeing the background footage on like this right side right now, for example. And that's how you do transitions. I mean, you can look into more of the different types of transitions you have available on your own, or even adding custom ones, because I believe it has support for that. But I'm not going to teach that here. It's the beginner's guide. Then next up, we have just basic edits, right? Effects. So you just want to hit effects. There's a couple that I like to use, which I have all favorited, which is gain, mute, volume, crop, and transform. Gain just makes the audio louder. So if you listen to it real quick,
left click on the main screen.
Right, you'll see it's like that. I did drag in gain. It didn't do anything yet because you have to actually click the audio specifically. Since gain is an audio effect, it'll only show up when you click the audio. You'll see even though I have this selected both times, depending on where I click, it either won't or will be there. Since if I click on the video, it's not there. If I click on the audio, it is. Let's just put up to like 400%. It'll make it 4 times louder.
Drag with left click on the main screen.
There you go, it's a lot louder. To get rid of it, you can just click on the audio again, hit the little delete button, get rid of it. Mute, pretty self-explanatory, it mutes the audio. You don't even have anything really configured. It'll just mute it. So I'm going to delete that. And then volume can technically do both of those things, but I liked using gain more when making it louder because it makes it, I don't know, it feels like easier to adjust, but you can use volume to mute as well. I generally use volume when making stuff like kind of quieter but not muting. I use mute to mute, obviously, and then I use gain normally to make stuff louder because I think it also has a higher range too, so it's like a win-win. But you'll see this will be like considerably quieter to the point where you can't even hear it, I guess. 30 might be too low because the audio was already kind of quiet.
Drag with left click on the main screen.
Right, you'll see it's a good amount louder, not louder, quieter, because we just made it quieter. Anyway, I'm going to go delete that again. Then we have crop, which you just have video effect. You can crop the left, the right, like the top, bottom, and now you'll see we just have that little cube left over. I mean, it's kind of hard to see because the background's black, but you can kind of see it's just this area right here at this point, and to get rid of that, same as everything else, just go delete it. And then the last one is transform, which has a visual aspect. You can like visually just drag it, resize it all you want. It's really simple. To reset it, there's probably an option in here to reset it. I normally just delete it and re-add it unless I have a reason to go find that option. You can also change it in here. You can make the size bigger, for example, or just move it to the side a bit if you really want to. Right? If I just want to move it 100 to the right, then there you go, I can do that. Not sure why you ever want that. Opacity you can change. Like, right, this is half visual, so you can like kind of see stuff behind it, which would be useful if there was something behind it. But since there's nothing behind it, it just kind of gets like less visual, I guess. And then you can obviously rotate it, which honestly with this clip I think looks kind of cool, having it kind of go in the opposite way. But yeah, that's how you do that. And then the only other really important things is a not time lapse, whatchamacallit, keyframing, right? So this isn't for every effect, but for quite a lot of effects like transform, you'll see this little stopwatch with a line through it. You want to click on that to enable keyframes. There should be a default one here on the left, but if there's not, you can go over to it and add it, right? So let's say I want to add a keyframe over here later in the clip. You just hit the little add button here. It'll make a little point here. So you want to click that point to have it selected. It should be red when it's selected. And you can mess with whatever values you want to mess with. And if you go back to the starting one, it should still have your starting values. Sometimes this isn't the case because you didn't select the second one, in which case you'll bug out some stuff. So make sure you have a keyframe selected when editing keyframeable clips. You'll see now if I play this.
Wow, this is some example footage.
Yeah, you can. It's kind of hard to see, I guess, but you can see it's getting smaller and smaller, and kind of transitioning over to that, and just in a slow, steady pace. That's generally how keyframes work. You can use that for a lot of stuff. The main stuff most people would care to use it for would be kind of moving stuff across the screen, right? So if I start this guy, I'll start him over on the left here, and then by the end of the clip, we'll add a keyframe. We want him to be on the right. You can see he'll just move nice and smoothly across the screen, and it'll look something like that in the video, but a bit smoother because the previews are not as smooth as the final product always. That's true for every video editor. And that's pretty much most of the basic edits. The only other thing I guess is text, which it's kind of weird in this program, but what you want to do is in the top left here, hit this little video thing, then add title clip. Then it'll open a window that looks like this. You can type whatever you want. Right, if you press enter, it'll go to the next, I guess, shift and enter. Yeah, shift and enter, it goes to the next line. I don't really know for sure. That's what I just pressed, and it worked fine. Or you can type, you can click out, click back in, and type again. You can have the text centered on the left. It's almost like Microsoft Word, right? It's simple stuff to edit. You can edit the outline color and the size, so I can make it a green outline. That's a 200 size, so you can't even see the text. Not that I should do that. And I'm actually going to put it back to... No, I'm going to leave it green because we have a black background. You can change like the color of the text, you can change the font, you can change the size of the text itself. And you might be wondering what these boxes are, and there's kind of like the visual, that's like the human visual radius, right? So if you have your text outside of this box at all, like the SAFAS or whatever, like people might not see this text. You want to make sure almost always that your text is in this box. That's just like a human psychological thing that they figured out over time. I don't know how it works, but it does work that way. I mean, I've tested it myself. Like, I can put something in the corner, even knowing it's there, it's kind of hard to look at. you want to make it in this main box unless you have a reason to put in the corner. And then you say create title, and then you can just drag it in the video portion of any part of your timeline, and it'll show up exactly where you have it. And you can't just drag it around like most other things. You have to double click on it. And I like to kind of pull this window down to cross-reference, and you can like pull it up or something. And now you'll see it's moved up a bit instead. And yeah, that should be everything. Obviously, you hit render to render, and then render to file, and it'll render it wherever you want it to save. And yeah, hopefully that was useful. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.